God saying, put away your cell phones.
Bless this house, O Lord, we pray. Make it safe by night and day. Bless these walls so firm and stout, keeping want and trouble out. Bless the roof and chimneys tall. Let thy peace lie over all. Bless this door that it may prove ever open to joy and bless these windows shining bright, letting in God's heavenly light. Bless the heart ablazing there, with smoke ascending like a prayer. Bless the folk who enter in, keep them pure and free from sin. Bless us all that we may be fit, O Lord, to dwell with thee. Bless us all that one day we may dwell, O Lord, with thee.
Have to read the directions. It is so good to see you all. So wonderful. Joy is filling my heart. You will recognize these words from John Greeley Whittier. And so I find it well to come for deeper rest to this still room. For here the habit of the soul feels less the outer world's control. For strength of mutual purpose pleads more earnestly our common needs. And from the silence multiplying from these still forms on either side. The world that time and sense have known falls off and leaves us God alone. Heavenly Father, We are so grateful for those who are in this room and those who are joining us on Zoom. Those whose hearts are with us as we come to this point in our journey. We're so thankful for the teaching we have received here, for the inspiration, for the care and concern we have shared with each other in our fellowship over these almost 200 years. And we ask that you, well, know we know that you're with us present today, as you have been in many times before. Enter our hearts in a new way. Refresh us for what comes next. In the name of Jesus, our best teacher. Amen. We welcome all of you on Zoom. Don't know how many we have, 20 or so maybe. I'd like to introduce everybody here, but I don't have time to do stuff. So I hope you introduce yourselves to each other and have a good time over here. So thrilled to have you here. The radio was turned down low as I was counting the last batch of tomato juice of the season. And I was thinking of how things used to be at West Newton, friends, compared to how they are now. And I was also thinking about how this day might go. We talked about it beforehand, and we said we do not want this to be like a funeral for a dying church. But we want to honor the memories of being in this fellowship and the spiritual growth that we have experienced here. We wanted to make it clear that West Newton Friends is still functioning. So even though I wasn't really listening to the radio, I heard enough to figure out that the program was an interview with a popular songwriter, Harry Styles. Maybe you've heard him. I have not. I heard the interviewer say that Harry's new song titled "As It Was" has been one of the top songs ever recorded. Well, that got my attention because I never even heard it. I thought maybe that could be our theme song for the day. I looked up the lyrics, and they go something like this. You know, it's not the same as it was, as it was, as it was. Seems you cannot be replaced. And I'm the one who was today. I want you to hold out the palm of your hand. Well, let's just leave it that way. Obviously, the words are about a relationship that was changing. So I thought they might be fitting for this occasion because our relationship with this meetinghouse is changing. If I rearrange the words of Harry's song, move them in another song, I might probably won't feel problems. I'm not going to do that. But they may express the way many of us are feeling today and provide a beginning for today's reflections. What about using those words like this? We all know it's not the same as it was, Seems those memories cannot be replaced. Though many have gone away, there are some who will stay. Lord, hold out the palm of your hand and take us ahead. And for now, let's just leave it that way. So we are going to use that song title and change it a bit to do our program in these three sections. As it was, as it is, as it will be. We won't spend much time on history, but what we will share has come from earlier commemorations of our 150th and 175th anniversary, and some of it was written by Lynn Mills for the records here. Norma, will you start out? Oh, we got it. Oh, we didn't. Let's see. Let's sing. So if you will turn to the feet, to a kind of different version of my life, how can I keep singing? The song we're going to do is My Life Goes On. I invite you to stand, but you're going to be sitting for a while. I'm sorry, I didn't make no copies.
In 1818, the new purchase treaty with the Delaware and Miami Indians opened this wooded wilderness to settlers. 6 years later, the chance meeting of James Horton and James Hayward has been accepted as the origin of the West Newton community. Though at that time it was called Easton. A year later, Jesse and Elizabeth Farman arrived here from the overwhelming meeting in Clinton County, Ohio, along with other Quakers. And in 1827, that group of friends known as Easton Preparative Meeting was established under the care of Fairfield Quarterly Meeting. In the next dozen years, about 25 members were accepted from Ohio and North Carolina. The first meeting house was a log structure, but in the 1840s, it was replaced by a wooden frame building west of Mooresville Road, where the old Eastern Friends Cemetery is. In 1870, a new meeting house was erected east of the road, where the West Newton School parking lot is now. That meeting house had doors for men and women, gallery seats at the front for elders, and movable partition to separate the men's and the women's meeting for business. and a school was built there too. Soon afterwards, the name changed from Easton Meeting to West Newton Meeting because of the neighborhood surrounding. About 20 years later, in 1890 or so, when the evangelical train was coming through, the meeting house was remodeled to remove the partition. A belfry was added and the two doors were taken out and replaced with just one on the south side. From then on, women and men held worship and business together. A few years later, an organ was permitted for use in Sunday school. It was there to keep the interest of the young people. It was that building that many of us remember our first church experience. It was a growing one for West Newton friends as it was on many other churches in this area. We had a new group of about 30 high school and junior high youngsters. We had 5 or 6 Sunday school classes and a busy nursery. Now, we're just going to take just a minute. If you went to Sunday school, here are some place close, I'd like you to call out the name of your Sunday school teacher. Just everyone say who your Sunday school teacher was.
Garnet Barnhart.
Okay, say it a little louder.
Garnet Barnhart.
Maud Fields.
Lisa.
And Sylvia Graves.
Norma Mills.
And Lynn Mills.
My grandchildren had Dan Berger. Irma Timmons.
Didn't come up with any names.
Irma Timmons. Dave said he couldn't remember anybody.
Well, I remember from myself, Lynn Mills, Summer's wife, and Bob Mills. Norma Westfield, with that too, as well as many others have been named. Thank you. We began raising funds for an addition to the church, and in 1950, an article in the local newspaper announced what we were doing. The members of the Society of Friends who attended West Newton meeting had for some time been aware that their church facilities were inadequate. But probably no incident has done more to spur them on to action when, on a recent Sunday when, no less than 25 children of preschool age were counted among those attending worship here. So in 1952, what we call the annex was built to add Sunday school rooms, a nursery, indoor restrooms, and a basement kitchen and social hall for reading or Halloween parties, family talent nights, kitchen dinners, and also resident school weekday religious education classes met there. West Newton Elementary School population of students was growing, and the school needed more space, so they purchased the church building, and we made plans for this meeting house, which was dedicated in 1965. At that time, we were in a peak in participation and attendance. For 25 of those years, we offered a new ministry to our community by having a daycare center. We served dinners at over 100 Lions Club meetings that were held here. We have hosted Girl Scout clubs, 4-H clubs, and several other community meetings. And we have invited other friends to come here for classes on Quakerism and other topics. We've been in this location for 58 years.
Takes me a minute to get there. This is a poem my dad wrote a long time ago. I had no idea. But this book was published in 1959 by the McCain family.
Use the mic.
Or I could talk a little louder. Dad wrote this poem. It's called The Quaker Church at West Newton, Indiana. Go east to a quaint little village. Turn northward as you go on your way. Near to the right is a little old church to welcome each Sabbath day. Just a little white church on the brow of the hill where folks gather in sacred accord. The house was built by the labor of man, but the church was built by the Lord. When I enter this quiet sanctuary, my faith is anew with reaction. For I sense the power of an almighty Lord who died for our soul satisfaction. As I walk down the aisle on this Sabbath, thrilled with the folks gathered here by the kind, happy look on their faces, you know God's Spirit is near. A great, gracious and sweet little lady, Beavery Castle, for those of you who remember. Alone on the pulpit she stood, poised in deep meditation. She's a symbol of all that is good. Quite humble ways of these people, their prayers and songs of the choir, seem to enlighten the soul of the sinner and fulfill each Christian's desire. It's leading my children through the path of brightness, ending gardens and from sin, building their soul to establish their faith, leaving room for God's love to come in. Oh, how my children love this white church. I could shout to the heavens in prayer and thank the dear Master for guiding them on to a treasure waiting in there. If you are weak and heavy laden with care and wish to lighten the load, I'll assure you strength and comfort, my friend, at the church by the side of the road. Oh, for the gift of eloquence and speech, I know what listening would be, to stand at the pulpit within the sacred old walls and proclaim its true values and meaning. If by chance you pass through this town, go northward as the road makes it be. You'll find the spot very dear to my heart, the West Newton Church of the Spring.
Norma's already told you some of the things that, West Newton Meeting has been involved with over the years. One of the big things, was the, Eastern Sunrise Festival. How many people here ever participated? Okay, for those of you that don't know, our choir got the idea of an Eastern Sunrise Festival, and many of us participated in that. Either willingly or because of us, which is fairly strongly, and But he's been on for 50 years and Betty directed every one of them. You know, she was a force to be reckoned with and a wonderful person. We've also hosted lots of things here. We've been involved with the school. We've provided meals for the teachers on parent teacher days and tutored students. We have a clothing pantry, closet, whatever you want to call it, out here for students who arrive at school and maybe don't have all the clothing that they need. So we have provided a place for that. We've also worked over the years with the Goodwin Community Center, which is up the road, and it provides services for needy people in the Mooresville section of Quaker Township. They have a food pantry there, program for seniors, and they provide Christmas gifts for needy families. We've helped with all sorts of those things over the years. We also have provided a number of things here at the meeting house. We have hosted a lot of different planning committees and things for Lions Club and all kinds of 4-H, all kinds of community groups like that. We provide leadership for 4-H, and we still do stand very involved in providing 4-H guidance for kids here in the neighborhood. We've had lots of classes. We also were very much involved in wider Quaker things. It would be kind of hard to look at the meeting committee without finding someone to bring us meeting on it. There are many of us who are involved in French United meeting things in the United Society of French Women. We just seem to be involved in, have a finger in lots of ties, I guess you could say. Some of us have lived through years close to home, and some of us have carried out our ministries a lot farther away from home. But supporting each other as we do that has been a real blessing and an opportunity for all of us. We've always taken to heart Jesus' word to love one another, let our lights shine, and go into all the world. And it's been a blessing to those of us who have gone. It's been a blessing to those of us who have stayed. And it's always good to know that we're praying for each other, no matter where it is that we're carrying out the messages that God has given on our hearts. Now, having said all that, it makes it sound really pretty good, and I have to admit that much of your things to admit about. Many of us have suffered with grouchy bosses and children. Sometimes we've had feelings over careless things that we have said to each other. Sometimes we had disagreements about things. But we also have experienced a time of witnessing conversations between people whose theological opinions could not be more different. And yet they can sit and talk to each other in love and kindness and in the conversation with a husband issue. And to me, that has always been one of the lessons of what we do, is that we don't have to agree with each other on everything, but when we do disagree, we don't have to disagree with one another. I find that one of the real lessons from this place. And one of the examples of that, would be the decision that we're telling you about today. It has been a decision that's been a long time coming, but it's been done with love and care and concern for everybody involved. And I don't even know to tell you how much that means to me, that we become this kind of hospitals in our lives. And we can listen to God's guidance of what to do next. And we can love each other through that process. It's been really wonderful.
I'm not used to a microphone, so bear with me. In the last 30 years, our attendance has diminished. Our children have grown up and several of them have moved away. When we look back at our statistics, we see we have recorded the death of 1 or 2 members almost every year for about the last 20. 2 decades ago, no longer had enough singers. 2 decades ago, we no longer had enough singers for the choir that he feels started in 1950. we began to take a serious look to the future, studying several possibilities for keeping us strong and identified some steps to invite others into our fellowship. We called in a few consultants to help us see what we could change to be more welcoming. We passed out several flyers, talked with people who lived in the neighborhood. We had special Sundays about bringing a guest. We had a booth at the Decatur Fair to increase the awareness of our presence in the neighborhood. We tried to always have someone prepared to teach Sunday school for children, even when we had no children present. We invited community people to get to know us in a program called Quaker Quest. We are very glad for those who have joined us in recent years, and they are the reason we still exist. But we haven't kept up with the decline of our membership. Sadly, we stopped having some of our favorite special occasions, such as our fall fundraiser for missions we called Farmers Market for a while, and then cooking and crafts. We gave up Vacation Bible School and our elaborate Christmas and Easter programs. Our new neighbors, our good neighbors at Fairfield Friends invited us to join them as they were making plans for their new meeting house. We talked about scattering to attend other meetings close by. We have had several talks about combining with Valley Mills. We did many things together with them and have collaborated on major projects such as the planning and construction and management of the home place and hosting lunch for community seniors. However, we couldn't find our way clear to leave this place to join them full time, nor did they feel clear to join us. We have devoted time to pray and discern what God was calling us to do. About 10 years ago, we came to the conclusion that we were to serve our current people as well as long as we were able, and we trusted increase in attendance to God. We downsized our community structure by eliminating most of them, with the understanding that any major concern or vision would be handled by ministry and council, which could name a working group for just that specific project, but not for a lifetime appointment like the trustees. About 10 years ago, we changed our meeting arrangement to bring us together in a smaller space. We changed our worship program and offered a shorter message and more open worship. Instead of having a paid pastor present a sermon each Sunday, several willing, capable members have volunteered, taking turns bringing the worship message. Doing that has made it possible to donate more funds to the outreach ministry that we call to support. It's really interesting having different people give messages on Sunday because everybody has kind of a different form and a viewpoint. Sylvia did one on hope the other day that really made me realize the things I hoped for weren't really important. Hoping for a good day was. Brent did one on how change is not always a bad thing. And that was great. Lynn does musical messages where she plays with wonderful old hymns that we all love. My favorite one was Dan Berger did one on what if what you said came out, but saying something bad would come out hot, like tasting it. You just had gone to the fair. And to me, that message will stick with me forever. Now, for me, I think outside the box. Norma always finds the music for me, but I've done messages on movies. In fact, I did one called Everything I Learned About the Bible, I Learned from the Movies. And given the chance, I somehow managed to work in Elizabeth Taylor and make title of one of her movies. 4 years ago, we began sharing this building with Canby Tabernacle, a Pentecostal congregation who has been quite happy about being here. We have been enriched by their presence and have felt good about this place of worship being theirs too. When COVID restrictions came along, we adjusted to a new kind of worship gathering and welcome both far and wide the local people to join us by Zoom. Now, there are so few of us present in this facility on Sunday mornings, we no longer need it. Nor do we have enough people who do the work to bear the expenses of maintaining the building and the surrounding properties. We have concluded that it is time for another congregation to take over with our blessing. I've been assigned a topic that will be, who knows? Man, it's such a, who knows what the future is going to bring in the long run. But I think those early Quaker pioneers that we heard about from our history, they didn't have any idea what it was to be yet either. They just knew that they were called to form a community of faith. And here we are still today. Seems to me that one of the hallmarks of our religious heritage is pilgrimage. We read for our scripture lesson last week, Genesis 12, Abram is called. He takes up and God tells him to go. And so he goes, but it says his tents and all the people he acquired. And so we are picking up and going with, we're not taking our tents, but we are taking our hymnals and our candles that we use for worship, and we are going to a new place. As of next Sunday, you heard about our ministry with, in partnership with the Goodwin Center. We are actually going to be meeting at the Goodwin Center up in Mooresville. It's still on Mooresville Road, so physical address is only going to change by a few numbers, but it's a good facility and it will be perfect for us. You'll see our new sign is out front. That's a sign that will be out front of the Goodwin Center every Sunday, so the folks know that they can come and worship with us. As I said, we are a pilgrim people. We're always being called to listen to God. And I'm so pleased that this meeting, these people, as we gather, have realized that it's time to do West Newton Quaker in a new way, in a new place. And that God can bless us in those places. Doesn't mean we forget where we've been. It just means that we're not going to form the Back to Egypt committee and keep looking over our shoulders and say, well, maybe we should stay there. But we'll look back and remember these places that are our touchstones. I said in the message last week, one of the things that's different about a tourist from the pilgrimage is the tourist often takes lots of pictures. And then they come home and they can look at the pictures over and over, saying, I've been there, done that. Where a pilgrim builds altars. I have a brother-in-law who is not very religious, but he's spiritual. He builds rock altars in his backyard overlooking. They live up on Log Hill Basin in Colorado. The Indian tradition, Native American traditions to build rock altars. The Old Testament tradition was they built rock altars. Read the story of Abram that I just mentioned. He's building little altars. Well, this is one of our altars. This building, every time we drive by it, we will remember it. We drive by the cemetery, whether we call it the old West Newton Cemetery or the Eastern Cemetery, or remember the meeting house across the street there. Someday folks may remember when we met at the Goodwin Center. They're all touchstones for us, and they always will be, to be celebrated. But now it's time to raise our honor and see where God is calling us next, and to what work, who God will gather with us. Just last Sunday, in a monthly meeting, to prove that we are still alive.
we had a membership request for a new member. And we rejoice in that. And it's a friend, Jonathan, who's online, who joined via Zoom, who lives in Kentucky. So who knows where our ministry will go? We just pray God's blessing as we endeavor to do good. Let's turn to the hymn on the back of your sheet and sing, God creates a blessed newness. If you'd like to stand, let's do that.
Imagine a 17-year-old coming through those doors, meeting Quakers that she had never met before, scared to death, shy, not anymore. I have been in this building quite a few years now. 6 grandchildren, 1 great granddaughter, friends, family. Too numerous to tell. And also imagine 4 years after coming through those doors, Stanley and I were married here, not with a Quaker minister, but 2 Disciples of Christ ministers, which were my uncles. So that was something new for West Newton. And then, in last monthly meeting notes, we had posted that we, have been married 52 years. And it all said, we would like, for those of you who would like to share, please do so. It's been great to you.
We're going to invite friends to, if you feel led to share, to come forward a little bit. You don't have to use the microphone, but you do have to get up around here so that the owl can pick you up for those online. And I want to share, this is not my memory, but this was received from our friend Catherine Murray, who is pastor of Noblesville meeting. And she said, I'm sorry you won't be able to attend West Newton celebration because of responsibility to Noblesville friends, but I want to send along my loving thanks and share some good memories as we cross this important threshold together. I'll try to read it. I found it very moving. I still think of West Newton as my home field. Because it was there I found my voice and my place among friends. You all welcomed me with such warm hearts and encouraged and enabled me to begin to explore what I myself might have to say about matters of faith and presence. I have precious memories of many good conversations with Florence, laughing with Chip and sharing animal stories, Lynn's beautiful heart and great compassion, Norma's stirring music and her great purities, Sylvia's messages about the wider world of friends, Dale's passion for service in Belize and Western Europe meeting, Dan's touching and down-to-earth messages. Friends' thoughts that served the soul and inspired inward searching and often outward action. Nancy's beautiful smile and warm hospitality, always so kind. So many wonderful experiences were planted in my heart, West Newton, and they continue to blossom in my time with Noblesville friends each week. Blessings of loving thanks and appreciation to you all as a meeting, and to each of you as friends. Thank you for your steady service and prophetic witness all these many years. God is so good, and you have been beautifully faithful to God's continuing and continuing call. Thy loving friend, Catherine. And folks on Zoom, you're welcome to share too. Just unmute yourselves and begin to speak.
Oh, I'm not shy. When I first came in the West Newton Friends meeting, I came and I was standing right where Dan is now. And I said to Lynn, is anybody sitting here? Because you know, Quakers like to sit in the same spot and don't take them. And Lynn said, no, that is your spot from now on. And that's where I stayed.
Sylvia's telling me this, so she's on the bench, but we'll try this, so I'm fine. I'm Carol Hoffman, Hoffman. I think Stanley for mentioning my parents who published his father's book, which all of us, all of my sisters and many copies of. And I wanted to know that the things and certainly from the call good as fall. When the big headlights come on. Mooresville Road is a narrow strip of pavement at evening. To this day, only lays a path encompassing all of West Newton. In the loop south of State Road 67 and about 7.5 miles southwest of Indianapolis. Heading south on Mooresville Road from Canton Road, you might have spotted a sad weather-beaten sign that because of its tenuous grip on the underlying soil inside the feet, tilted comparatively in the woods and undergrowth, which every summer vainly attempted to obscure. A sign that nevertheless bravely proclaimed West Newton and under those woods up to that sign. If you even noticed it, our church was the first building. That came into view on the left side of the road. Across that black was the old iron bridge, the creek that sometimes flowed under it, and there are homes. Friends Church, a small white outfit of a brick building with 5 half-moon cement steps rising up to its wooden double doors, which each Sunday morning admitted its congregation to dim and holy. And an hour later, the first steps sanctified and full of tongues, blinking in the rising sun, and all Sunday mornings did seem bright in those days. Our church had a small building. Well, it was hardly a small square really, with a pointed steeple on top. The cupola on top of the church, or meetinghouse, as we called it, was home to a great old bell that today can still be seen outside of the community and more modern communities, which now stands under a giant dome about 3 miles north on Mooresville Road. But that new building with its triangle of its same glass windows was unable to hold other story. When the bell made its home in the faithful and plain spoken white frame building, a hardened full, thick brown knotted rope hanging just inside the double door, rang out an immutable call to the no one. But the people above across the back of the building was an old porch that led to the vestibule, and the hollow sound of footsteps across those lines made no secret about the using of strange call. Because that meetinghouse and its care more than just spiritual of its flock. After Sunday morning service, as those chattered and gratified, our children played under the watchful protectors, danced with the steeple. We hopped up and down the steps, played tag under the shade trees, and leapfrogged the police flimsy, round wooden posts that on the building. If you were really good, you could clear the tallest one, even entrance, and I enjoyed it. As growing conversation slowly died down, people put on gold and later moved. Children were gathered in the cars, and we went home to meals of fried chicken or potatoes. Oh, the only day of the week in our house that lunch was called dinner. My parents began to attend that church before I could walk. And when my sister Margie was in Chicago, they chose it because my father loved to sing from their house at the time across the street in Indianapolis. They could hear the choir to sing on those weeks. My father was the manager of a small devotion. That was, of course, before he took the job of Maple Stair. And we all moved to that in the corner of Mooresville Road, and another little girl mountain was born. My parents continued to attend that church for the rest of their life. And my father never father until long after I graduated from college. And I guess that explains why I always did and always will picture that little white friend building. And I laid my finger backward and turned them and point my index fingers into a steeple and then form the double fold my thumbs. Go ahead and try. You'll see what I mean when I get to the part that says, open the door and see all the people. My fingers Goodwin and Son Mills, Lawrence, Walker, and Muriel Water, and the other things for Westfield. You will probably name your fingers differently, but these people were the faithful self to us. And at the same time, the very quietude that my mother eventually found so effective. Still, in West Newton, God bless us, everyone, that will be recognized for them. And I'm sure there were other people. And I see a lot of them.
I'd like to say a word briefly for some of the pastoral leadership here. I'll just pick two of the pastors that I knew better than the 5 or 6 that have been here since Beth and I started coming here in 1966. Don Moon, who was working on his doctorate at IU and gave extremely good sermons, of course, benefiting from the philosophy department at Indiana University. Very stimulating sermons, and was delighted to make his acquaintance, and he officiated at our president here in December of 1967, and goodness gracious, that's coming on 55 years. And another pastor who influenced me was Aldine Pitts, who was had a knack for presenting liberal, moderate, and conservative ideas in the same sermon, which he had to do here because there were liberal, moderate, and conservative thinkers. And he also gave his sermon twice here and over at Valley Mills when there was a good ministry for a few years. And Aldine was a great user of the CTS library, and had a nice stack of books and worked hard on his sermons. But he didn't have the benefit of the IU philosophy. Catherine, several others, and another mention more. I heard about Mr. Reverend Hadley's ministry here long ago. And just think of the son that he produced as a physician in Kenya and one of the leading physicians in Plainfield for many years, who we also went to. So the influence of the pastors sharing their ministry with everyone in the meeting is incredibly widespread.
This is Debbie Hoffman Buckler. Growing up in Decatur Township, as most of you know, it was settled by a handful of Quaker families. And I always found it interesting that we had so many Quaker meetings in such a relatively small geographic area. And I remember our dad would often say, be kind to everyone you meet because you're probably related. So probably one of our strengths of being an introspective practice is also made it a challenge to bring people into the fold, because it seems like we grew by marriage and children instead of outreach. So this is an interesting day and time, and I know that I'm among the many who wish you well as you take this next step in your chapter of being the West Newton Friends meeting.
I'm Dan Beane. I've had the privilege of being married to Sylvia for almost 2 years now. And so I have that connection with West Newton. I had a message from Max Carter in North Carolina, who many of you may know. He said, Dan, it's very poignant to hear about the sale of the West Newton property. I remember vividly when it was built. It was a real center of vibrant young friends activity in Western Year Eden. I looked on it as a boy from Rusherville as a sort of Quaker Valhalla. I have fond memories of bonfires and boat singing and other wonderful times with the huge group of young people from that area that took place at West Newton.
There's no way I'm gonna be able to say this without crying. I'm Carter Berger. I'm my sister, Kristen. We were born into this church. And I had absolutely no idea what everyone's talking about the young and vibrant children here. We were usually just the three of us. It was for the most part. And just the three of us in the Sunday school together. All the kids in the church. We had the privilege of being the center of attention when we kids. This church means so much to the three of us, even if we don't show it anymore. But it means people up here. To you, Lynn, Sylvia, and Dale, and Nancy. That will have our hearts and have had our hearts since we were babies. And they have raised us in this church, and it's hard to take it by the church. You guys will all be everything to us.
I've not used one of these before. I'm the other Sylvia Mills. The first time I became aware of your Sylvia Mills was she was sitting on the front porch here, and I came in to help with Vacation Bible School. I was married to Murray Mills, and we live in the Mills home place right through the bean field out there. And moved into the house after
Uncle Newland Mills, moved out. And, but was very involved with him, and he worked on building this new meeting house. The Millses settled in this area, I think, in 1827, so they were some of the first members here. I have seen pictures and have read letters, because our house is kind of has all the family memory things. I've always joked, no one ever moved from our house, they just died and left us their things. With all this building going on, my children do not want to sell the family home place. And so we hope to stay there, although the neighborhood around us is really changing. From the family jokes, I've heard that when Howard Mills and Vernon moved from the family home place over to the Valley Mills, then they moved their membership over there. But the main reason was that Vernon and Leela didn't always get along together. So this way, Leela could run West Newton and Vernon could run. So, living so close, people have all always ask why, why we didn't come here. But Marie grew up at Valley Mills, so that's where I joined when we got married. But I look through the field and I can see the point of the church, because I've always said the Continental Divide is really in this field out here, where part of it drains this way and the rest drains into my backyard. But I'm gonna miss knowing that, it's not gonna be quite the same when I look through my kitchen windows and see the top of your meeting house. I'll miss knowing that you're not here, but I know you're still going to be meeting some other place, and your heart will still be here too.
I'm trying to make it so I think the land of this church is still on from somewhere. And that should be a part of it. This week.
I am Sarah Beth Marcinko, and I am clerk of Western Yearly Meeting, and I've lost my voice. I just want to bring greetings from Western Yearly Meeting on this occasion. I've written a little more in the chat. I wish I could have been there in person. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Sherry, used to be Stewart, and I married Megan Sentiment. Gary and I were married in this church 55 years ago. Well, I'm losing track of where I'm going now. But anyway, I moved to Peters Township when I was 15, and I was in a foster home down in Heaven Prairie. And I was cleaning house for Betty Fields. Periodically, about every Sunday. for a while. But anyway, this church has just been, Margaret, my friend, who is sitting right next to me here in the phone, and her sister Carol and her husband David, they came today too, and then Margaret was the first one to invite me into the church here. And it's just been a blessing for me because it was just such a turmoil for me when I moved out here at time. And, but anyway, when I graduated from high school, the church presented me with a Bible, which I still have. And we've been out in Putnam County since 71. We live in the same town for 51 years. We didn't start it now. Anyway. But anyway, they made a quilt for my daughter, who's a daughter, Becky, who has since passed with breast cancer. But they made a quilt for her, a baby quilt. And that was hand sewn, that quilt was. So I'm sure that, I mean, I probably at the time who worked on that, like probably Nina and Leela and maybe Muriel and some others. But this was just, well, that's what brought us back today. And sorry to hear that you have to move out of this church, but hopefully it will be for the best. And, but we're no longer Quakers. We're Baptists now. So, anyway.
I'm Sue Mills. I'm the wife of Larry Mills, who is the son of David Mills, you may remember. In 1971, Larry brought me here. We were dating. I was just a Methodist kid from Cleveland that he found at Purdue, and he brought me in here. And I was very much welcomed by so many people here. I especially remember Steve's parents and sometimes Lynn's parents and Betty Fields and the Bengals. And Larry and I did get married in 1972, so we continued to come here on some Sunday. And Viola asked me if I wanted to be on the baseball team. It's a pretty bold move. She found it. We got out there to play baseball. She was a little amazed at how I could not swing baseball that. So she jumped off the bench and came over and taught me how to hold it. I didn't know. Just yeah, not that we know it's baseball. We did know. Anyway, I really appreciate how welcome everyone will be new to the community, and it's always just like coming home. And of course, Larry's parents were always in all the cousins and aunts and uncles. All the Mills were always very much family to me, and always made it me feel special. But I really have good memories of this week. Now it's in its first term, then we have been members there for 40 years, and a lot of the feelings and welcoming and that sort of thing carried over there too. But my first memories of being in a Quaker meeting was very
Anyone still want to speak? Thank you, Brother Sharon. This is very rich, wonderful. Let us turn to hymn number 67 in the hymn book. Verses 1, 3, and 5. Now remain standing when we read this. Using some scripture verses you might recognize. It's called It's Time. I've altered some words to Isaiah 46. I hope you aren't offended. He has shared some thoughts that seem quite fitting now as our time in this building has ended. Listen to me, O house of West Newton, all who remain in this place. You who I've known since you were conceived, and those who have lived in my grace. Even you with old age and gray hairs, your faith will not be in vain. I'll guide you my hand on your shoulder to always be. In Psalm number 90, a prayer by praying Moses, our words about the passage of time. So I've juggled them around and edited you for the purpose of making them rhyme. Lord, you have been in our dwelling place through multiple generations, with us nearly 200 years and on many special occasions. Teach us to number our days aright as we gain a heart of wisdom. May the favor of the Lord rest upon us as we try to change our system. Make us glad for the days you've been with us, for the years you've endured our afflictions. Have compassion upon your servants, and make clear our new definition. Of course, you expected to hear from Ecclesiastes 3. There's a time for everything under the sun. There's a time to plant and a time to uproot. There's time to mourn and there's time to affirm. There's a time to embrace and a time to refrain. A time to keep and a time to throw away. A time to weep and a time to laugh. A time to move on, and that time is today. So we cleaned out our files. We found pictures from the past. We've shared lots of memories, but this deed we've saved for last. It's not that we're finished, as time will go on. We're just moving around the block. West Newton friends will still worship together, but it's time to take down the clock. We invite you to stand and shake your neighbor's hand as we sing the benediction we sang. Then we'll go down the hall for food and drink, that's by the person. Thank you for being here. God bless you. And whatever journey you're on next. Oh, God will. Now, let's just go ahead. Let's just go ahead. Grapes. Cider from the orchard.